Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished technology leader from Singapore, Wan Wei Soh. Wan Wei, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ash.
Thank you. Wan Wei is the founder of IKIGUIDE Metaverse Collective IMC, which is an entity with a mission to help 10 million people cross over to the Web 3.0 space. So let's start talking about IKIGUIDE. Tell me a little bit about the venture and what was your motivation to start it?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Ash. So I actually spent 4 years of my life in Finland. And in 2014, we started IKIGUIDE because in Finland, there was this really great open source movement and culture. And, Linux started from Finland. So IKIGUIDE started in 2014 as a startup media portal, wanting to also, like yourself, give back to the ecosystem.
Right.
And in 2017, because of the bull market, we pivoted it to specialize just on Bitcoin and blockchain startups. And last year, in 2021, we decided to focus on the metaverse because realized that a lot of people, a lot of media attention and capital is moving towards the metaverse. Yeah, so that's pretty much how we started IKIGUIDE.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And you said you were in Finland and then moved back to Singapore.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me start by asking you a very basic question, and this is for the many viewers and listeners across multiple ages. Tell me, what is Web 3.0 and what is the metaverse and how will they impact our lives?
Yeah, that's again a really good question because currently, frankly speaking, nobody can define what Web 3.0 is. Correct. And there is no industry consensus on what the metaverse is. So maybe let me approach this question from the perspective of first principles. So a lot of people, or myth rather, a lot of people think that Web 3.0 or the metaverse is a platform. Why would they think so, right? Because we keep hearing Roblox on the papers. Yeah. We hear, Facebook rebranded to Meta Labs, and you have Microsoft making a $90 billion acquisition of a gaming company, Activision Blizzard. So in people's head, they think it's a platform. However, let me suggest that any platform without communities, without human beings, without social interaction, is just a ghost town. Right? So what I can do with the definition is to suggest that Web 3.0 and the metaverse is not a platform. Okay. I can tell you what it isn't because nobody in the space has a consensus of what it is. Okay. So definitely it cannot be a platform. And definitely the discourse is towards it being a community or communities of people. So personally, how I would define the metaverse is that the metaverse is really a safe space because you don't want to go on board a platform and then suddenly get raped, get your avatar molested or raped, which happened in Facebook Reality Labs, right? So it is really a safe space for the user to choose the different types of communities that he or she wants to belong to. Because on this metaverse, you can actually explore yourself, explore your ideal self, experiment with things, and with good intentions, hopefully, and people curating the safe space, hopefully you can do something good for the world in a collective manner. Yep.
Very interesting. But tell me also that with the coming of the metaverse, how will the digital challenges be handled by companies in a virtual world?
Yeah. So one of the challenges is definitely the concept for safe space, because especially with the open metaverse, the very definition of open means that who has the rights to regulate what I want to do on that metaverse. So this is a bit dangerous because human nature is, of course, both good and bad. And we cannot really control how people will behave through their avatars on the metaverse, right? So this is one of the risks. It is a difficult problem to solve because of the inherent nature of humans, and also because of the question of who has the power, the rights to say what is good or bad, to determine the law on the metaverse. So I think this is one of the biggest challenges. The next challenge is probably that of maybe interoperability, which is one very big technical issue in the open metaverse, because we keep hearing people say that the idea of, if I were to hold a NFT or a digital asset in my decentralized wallet, I can actually use it in any open metaverse. This is only true if there's interoperability. But when we talk to metaverse technical specialists or game specialists, they say that this will only come in 10 to 15 years. So, do we want to wait until then? And maybe until then, there's no more metaverse. So it's a fast industry.
Well said. But again, to try and simplify the understanding of the metaverse, if your and my conversation was currently going on in the metaverse, the only difference would be that you and I would be talking through our 3D avatars. Is that correct?
Actually, some people already say that Zoom is a metaverse because we can actually put like, let me try if I can do this. Okay, choose virtual back. Do you know we can put like virtual filter?
I didn't know that. Okay.
Like this.
I didn't know that, but
like this.
Wonderful. Okay.
So if I can appear like this while talking to you, right? So are we already in the metaverse through Zoom? I can do this as well. Like you can try it. You can try it. It's under setting.
I will experiment with this. Okay, that's very fascinating. Okay.
Let me continue like that.
Okay, you can continue like that. Okay.
Yes.
So, but I've been trying to understand, and this is a question to you. What are the serious aspects of the metaverse other than gaming and creating avatars from the perspective of the common human being?
Oh, that's an excellent question. You're absolutely correct, Ash, because a lot of people think that, gaming equal metaverses, and this is very limiting as a definition. Metaverses are also used for digital twins. So it's exciting because, now, like, people with disabilities in real life, physical disabilities on wheelchair, for example, they definitely cannot go to certain tourist attractions, or they cannot travel as freely as they want. So with digital twins as a technology on the metaverse, the person with disabilities, physical disabilities, can actually travel one-to-one replica on a virtual space, and they can enjoy they can enjoy seeing the view that is in real time. Already companies have the technology for digital twin, and I'm so excited to see the future tourism possibilities that could happen. Another practical use case of the metaverse is through construction, and one more is through healthcare. Like, we have COVID-19. COVID-19 directly resulted in a technology called telemedicine. So it accelerated the progress. So right now, if you have issues with your health in COVID, like you suspect that you get COVID and it's inconvenient for the doctor to come and visit you, you can do it through telemedicine. And some countries even use VR and AR technology to distract you from the pain that you're feeling. So especially for younger kids. So if they need to draw blood, they can put on a Oculus headset, and when the doctor is drawing blood, they can be distracted. So it's good for young children as well. Metaverse can be used for that, practical use cases as well.
But if to continue with your example, if a doctor has to draw blood, then the doctor needs to be where the child is, isn't it?
Yes, correct. So my point is, this is a separate point from the COVID-19 example. What I'm saying is that in a separate example for hospital or medical use cases, when a nurse have to physically draw blood from a child, they can use the Oculus headset.
The other question I have, Wan Wei, is that I understand there are multiple metaverses.
Yep.
How does a common human being determine which metaverse to be in?
Oh, that's a great question. I think back to first principle, there are three reasons or three attributes of the metaverse that make it very appealing to users. First, it needs to be interactive, needs to be immersive, and needs to be social. So my simple answer to that is that people will definitely know when they see the right metaverse, because on the metaverse are people they want to talk to every day.
Yeah.
So it's an intrinsic desire for social connection. And what connects people is common values, common vision, and common beliefs.
Okay. In a world, and you live in a very developed market of the world, which is Singapore, but in a world which has got so much disparity, do you see the metaverse or this level of technology making a bigger divide between the haves and the have-nots?
That's a really good and interesting question. I think at this point it is uncertain, and which is exciting because as very early adopters and trailblazers, we have the power to decide.
Correct.
And of course, this is recently what I've realized myself, because moving forward, it is the values of the trailblazer that will decide the course of where we are moving towards. Is it greater inequality or less? So if we want less inequality, would it be possible to do more open source and open access and inclusivity projects on the metaverse? I think this is a conscious decision, not necessarily easy, because sometimes when we make the choice to be more inclusive, be more diverse, we are leaving a lot of money on the table, to be very honest. So this is not an easy choice. To make the choice to include people might sometimes not even be profitable. Yeah, so it is a choice that leaders have to make. So this idea about metaverses really starts from leadership, and no matter what role we are taking, whether working for someone else, working for a project, or starting a project, I think it's important to be conscious that whatever decisions we as metaverse trailblazers are making, it will make impact later down the line, because we are really laying down the foundation and infrastructure at this point.
Interesting. There is also talk, Wan Wei, that a lot of large corporates and a lot of the big brands has started to buy real estate in the metaverse. Help us understand what this means. Where is this real estate and how will they use it?
Okay, that's a great question. So the common perception is that, to people who don't understand Web3, Metaverse, NFT, blockchain, they'll be like, oh, how dumb it is to buy JPEG files, right?
Correct.
So the next question is it really a JPEG file or is it something more? So I'm inclined to think that it is something more, because, for example, if there are already a huge crowd of community on your metaverse, they are spending their actual time, energy, resources, money there already. So brands are actually buying those lands to go to where the consumers and users are actively spending time. So it's not as though I set up a building there in a ghost town where nobody goes. I'm actually going to where my consumers are spending time on. Okay, so this is the first part as to why brands are on the metaverse and buying lands. The second part is why so expensive, right? Okay, so the idea is that if Paris Hilton and Snoop Dogg did buy lands on Sandbox, he even made a music video on his house in Sandbox, right? So if Snoop Dogg buys a house or a parcel of land on Sandbox, and I have the opportunity to actually stay next to Snoop Dogg, then it becomes a flexing ability in the sense that I can tell the whole world through social media, all my friends, that, hey, I actually live next to Snoop Dogg on social media. And impressively, he even made a video on his house in the metaverse, and you can see my house next to his house.
Wonderful. Okay.
It's a bragging right that, again, is inherent to human nature. We like to brag, and this is why the luxury market is so big. Like according to one very Euromonitor, I think by 2030, the luxury market on the metaverse itself will be worth 30 billion euros.
Wow.
30 billion euros, just luxury market on the metaverse itself. So yeah, it's this kind of, it's back to first principles and the innate need for human beings to want to brag about their money, their wealth. Yeah.
And yet, Wan Wei, and I'm much older. If I want to buy, say, a pair of Nike shoes on the metaverse, my avatar can go and buy a pair of Nike shoes. But when it comes to me physically, sitting on the other side of the computer, how does that pair of shoes get delivered to me so that I can actually wear it and go for a walk?
That's a good question. Firstly, this is the concept of phygital. Phygital is like a trending word in the metaverse, it means physical plus digital. So it is possible for technology. I don't think Nike actually did it yet, but I am pretty sure at least one fashion brand has done it. So the idea is your avatar maybe buys an NFT of a sneaker, and when you go to your nearest Nike store to redeem it, your NFT might be burnt, and once it's burned, it can be exchanged for that.
And then you can get a real shoe in place of that.
Yeah, if they want it that way.
If you
I think one interesting phenomenon that we have been seeing in the retail space is that now physical stores, merchants, they want to upsell the NFT for authenticity purposes. So you have both the NFT and the physical sneaker, and the NFT will prove that the physical sneaker is actually the real thing. Yeah, and they make money from both sides.
Absolutely fascinating. So one more question before I move to the next set of questions. What are the technology disruptions that you see because of the metaverse in the future?
Technology, I wouldn't say it's really a disruption. I would rather say it is a progress, because in my opinion, metaverse is nothing new. I mean, the hype started really based on SEO data, search engine data, right? When Facebook rebranded to Meta last year. And things like VR, your AR, virtual reality, augmented reality, extended reality, mixed reality, the technology is behind all these, right? Actually have a long history, like 30 years, 40 years before we have these. And the term metaverse actually was first invented through Neil Stephenson's novel called Snow Crash in 1990. So it's nothing new, actually.
Wow.
So what I would say that it's not a disruption, it's actually a progression of technology, and something to watch that will be biggest, in my opinion, will be augmented reality, how brands or people use augmented reality to access the metaverse. The main reason why is that we all have smartphones. Like even in developing economies, some people have smartphones, as compared to your AR glasses, as compared to your VR headsets. We all have smartphones, but like people like myself don't even have AR glasses. I don't even have like VR headsets, So it's my opinion that if there's one technology to watch, just watch augmented reality, because we all have smartphones.
Fascinating. What a great response. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on now, Wan Wei, you also have, when I was reading about you, you also talk about the metaverse for all, the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about this.
Okay, let me start with a story. I actually met this rapper in Singapore who actually represented Singapore in a National Day parade. So he raps really, really well. And he's on a wheelchair. So he was sharing with me that when he was young, he actually was in a metaverse called, I think it's called Habbo Hotel, Habbo. So he was playing games there. And because everyone appeared as avatar, and he felt very accepted because people could actually look beyond his physical appearance. Because once we see someone in wheelchair, there are preconceived judgments ready. And he told me this, he said, the only regret that he ever had when it comes to playing on Habbo Hotel is actually meeting his teammates in real life.
Okay.
That was his only regret. And it's not just him. It was also the teammates' regret, because his boss was actually a 12-year-old kid. At the point in time, he was 20 plus, I think, or near 20 plus. So it was a shock. It is a real shock to him when he realized that, hey, his boss is actually a 12-year-old kid. This kid who received money from his parents and had the enough pocket money to distribute to his workers on Habbo.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't very nice. So the thing is that on the metaverse, there's always this freedom to be whoever you want to be, so that it maybe is an escapism from real life as well. If you have been so judged in real life, would it be possible to actually be someone else on the metaverse? So the diversity movement is giving people the power to be themselves on metaverse. So if I am on the wheelchair in real life, would it be possible that for avatars to be so diverse that I can be myself on the metaverse as well, if I want to? So that's the idea of the movement.
Oh, interesting. And is this a movement that is now in Singapore alone, or have you started to spread it around the world?
We're actually growing organically. So I think now on LinkedIn, we are 300 strong. It's not like a lot, but it is a good start because so far we haven't been doing any marketing at all. So everything is just organic growth, and people who are interested can just join. And why we wanted to do it on LinkedIn is because in the Web3 space, a lot of people are anonymous. But when it comes to diversity movement, my wish is for people to, put their name and reputation behind the movement, saying that, hey, I am for diversity and I want a more diverse metaverse. Yeah.
Well said. What a great response. Thank you. And my last question to you, Wan Wei, now, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. What would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from your amazing experience of the metaverse, Web 3.0? What would you want them to take away?
Okay, 3 lessons. Okay, maybe allow me to make it 3 maybe characteristics.
Sure.
So I realized that when working professionally with Web 2 or Web 2.5 professionals, there's this mindset difference that really cannot gel, because people like myself, I've been in elite schools maybe for half of my life, and there's always this desire to know things first. Like I need to know the whole picture first. I need to have a nice plan that I spend like maybe 1 month thinking of, then I execute according to the plan. Yeah, in the Web3 space, open metaverse space, it's not like that. So number 1, have a growth mindset. I think growth mindset is defined as, instead of thinking, I can't do this.
Yeah.
How can I do this? Reframe the question to, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. To how can I do this? How can I learn this? Okay, this is number 1. Have a growth mindset.
Yeah.
Number 2, start small. Yeah, because when we start small, because the Web3 space is highly risky. It's like so many people are experimenting and exploring things that may or not fail. And frankly, they don't even care. It's just like, let's experiment, that kind of mojo. So start small, because the downside is that your starting small may go to 0, but your upside is really a lot, like 100 times, 1,000 times, right?
Correct.
So always start small. And the last one is be open to pivoting, and always measure your results after starting small. So the main idea is start small as point 2. The third point is, after getting your results and some data, make another decision to go in another direction.
Okay. Pivot, you mean.
Let me recap. So have a growth mindset, start small, get the data, and pivot.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wan Wei, on that note, and your 3 characteristics, which are have a growth mindset, start small. I also often say have bite-sized milestones.
Yes.
And third one is get your data and be open to pivoting if required.
Yes.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about IKIGUIDE Metaverse Collective. Thank you for telling me so many new things about Web 3.0, about Metaverse. Thank you for showing me 2 interesting avatars on Zoom itself, and I've got to figure out how to learn some of these. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Ash, for having me today, and I wish good health and happiness to all the listeners of your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.